Hey guys, welcome back to the Toks podcast. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. I hope you guys are having an amazing week so far. And this is the fourth episode of the About 2021 preparation series. As we approach the new year, I want to help you get started on the right foot and with the right perspective. These tips are perfect for this new approaching year, but they're also applicable to every single part of our lives, right? Because at the end of the day, a new year just is one day where it activates and changes. But the mentality and the mindsets that we take into that new day and that new year are things that should be applied forever in our lives, every single day and every single year. So this week we'll be talking about emotional and mental residue. And as we get closer to the new year, I wanted to talk about this hindrance because I feel like it's one of the biggest ones when it comes to new beginnings, and that's residue. And when I say residue, what comes to mind is probably some dirt that is stuck on something like a shoe or some grime in some corner or on the edge of something that is just disgusting and is difficult to get rid of. And this is exactly it. This is what I'm talking about. The residue, the sticky stuff, the stuck stuff that is just there hindering and muddying up the situation. I know that residue is this stuff that we see in the physical, just like these examples I've given, but it's also the stuff we don't see. And residue of negative instances and past situations can be stuck to our minds. And the worst part about that type of residue is that we track it around and we take it everywhere we go. So just like physical residue, our mental residue can build up and follow us into different places. This kind of like the same way that if you were to step in some mud and walk into the house with those shoes, that mud and the residue of it stuck to your shoe from outside will be tracked into the house from outside and pretty much everywhere you go with those shoes on. This residue from negative past experiences brings that dirt into your present experiences, tainting them prematurely in the exact same way mud does. If you've had residue from past failure and that residue is stuck to your mind, when you go into future experiences, that stickiness of that past failure that you're not letting go of is going to taint your future experiences. It's going to have you feeling like failure's already predestined to you. And the thing about dirt is that it kind of attracts more dirt, right? So if you're walking around with the residue of past failure, you're probably going to be more likely to experience heavier failure, because if you're already anticipating it and you've already brought that energy into your present circumstances, you're going to pull that more of that energy towards you, right? Like negativity begets negativity, right? So another type of residue that is usually sticking to our minds is the residue of past heartbreaks. And this is a tough one to get over. As someone who has experienced it personally, I can attest to that. But what the residue of past heartbreaks does is that when we enter into a situation that's new and fresh, this person should have a clean slate because they've never done anything to us. We take the stickiness, that residue, that dirt of the past experiences we've had, and we bring it into this relationship. Residue can also be considered baggage, I guess, in this same context, right? So you bring in the fear that has been stuck to you from the past experience of heartbreak, and you bring it to this person who's never done anything wrong yet. And what happens is that you anticipate and you get scared and you overthink and you lack trust, and all of that stuff will probably lead to the demise of that relationship. And that residue of past heartbreak has attracted more heartbreak into your situation. Another common residue that we usually track around is the residue of past disappointments. And this is when we've tried something. It's not necessarily always failure. It could just be an unexpected turn or pretty much an unexpected turn or something that happened in a way that wasn't what we had hoped for. And that's not always failure, right? And the residue of past disappointments will have us walking into new situations scared, apprehensive, and unable to really put ourselves out there, because the moment we want to, that residue that's stuck to our mind will be like, remember last time you did this and it didn't work out? And as you can see, when we take something that's happened in a way that we didn't like it in the past and we bring that dirt into our present, it does two things. Well, it does a bunch of things, as you guys can probably imagine. And from those examples I gave you, I'm sure you could at least relate to one of them and see the way that has affected you. But two of the things that bringing that residue and that dirt into your presence does is that, one, it blocks your opportunity for a clean slate. It's absolutely impossible to have a clean slate when you're walking in with dirt to throw on the slate. Even if it was clean, the moment you enter there with your residue, you've already muddied the waters. And the second thing it does is that it English, you guys, you know how I struggle. It predetermines a negative outlook, which will almost always bring that to pass. And that's what I said. Negativity begets negativity. If you walk into a situation with dirt and a negative outlook, you're going to be able to see that so much easier. And you'll even be able to see it in places where it probably doesn't exist. For example, with heartbreak, like the residue of heartbreak, right? As someone who can talk about this openly and tell you what it was like, meeting new people after you go through heartbreak and you're still walking around with the residue of it. One of the things that happened to me before I really had to like bring out the pine sol and rid myself of that residue was that I'd meet someone and they'd have amazing traits, but then there would be something that was a little negative, as we all have. I for sure have negative traits. None of us are perfect. But based on the residue of my past heartbreak, I would take that little thing that may have not even been a red flag to anybody else, and I would throw the residue of my heartbreak on it, so much so that I would think myself into the worst case scenario of what that little tiny maybe piece of ice could grow into. I would think it into an avalanche. And when it got to that place of being an avalanche, I would believe that to be true in my mind, even though that may never be the possibility or a reality for the situation. And that was because I was walking around with that residue of heartbreak. And pretty much I would prematurely break my own heart again, because I'd be like, oh, this person's perfect, but I can see this about them. And if this were to grow into all of this, because I've seen that happen in the past, it would be horrible. So then I convinced myself that maybe you're not the one, because I could see potentially you doing something that I won't like. And if you do it, it'll just lead to the same situation I was in. Whereas if I were to not have that residue, I'd see that for what it was and I'd be able to keep an eye on it, but I wouldn't allow it to muddy the waters to the point where I can't see past the dirt, because I've already brought my own dirt to turn this little, maybe a speck of dirt into like a pile of mud, pretty much, right? So this is for life in general, right? Getting rid of residue. It's absolutely important for life in general, but especially after this year that we had, a lot of you may be feeling discouraged because you had all of these big plans and hopes, but for reasons outside of your control. It's a pandemic. You may have not been able to have those things come to pass the way you expected. I'm not saying this for everyone, because there are some people who in this pandemic, they were able to flourish and do well outside of everything that was going on with the economy, society, the world, and like our mental health and all of that stuff, right? There are some people who did well, and that's amazing. And for those of us who may have not done everything we did plan to do, that's also fine as well. But like with us being in that situation, it's really important for us not to allow that residue of the way things went about this year to really track into our upcoming year. And that's why this had to be an episode in the preparation series, right? So the residue of that disappointment could have you feeling very apprehensive to try again, or to even hope as big as you did, because it's scary now. And especially because 2020 was like a new decade, all of this wonderful stuff, like aesthetically 2020, it's like 2020 vision and all that wonderful stuff that we were saying a year ago, right? And when things don't happen the way we want them to, it can cause us to really just lose hope. But I am telling you guys today that you should not let the devil win. And the way the devil wins is that he allows fear to overcome us and block us to the point where we are no longer willing to push to be what we're meant to be. Like, we all have these purposes and these roadblocks will come along the way, but we cannot afford to let them deter us to a point of stagnation. You need to have hope again. If you don't have hope, you lose purpose and a willingness for the future. And if you have no purpose and no willingness for the future, it becomes a very dark place. And you almost even become a robot because there's no pleasure in anything you're doing. You're just kind of going through the motions and living this life because there's no hope for the future. And what that does is that when you don't have any hope, you don't see brighter days. You don't hope for brighter days because you don't even think they exist. If you believe that brighter days exist, which is having hope, you'll want to do more. You'll want to try again. And I don't want this year and the way everything went and the fact that we planned, but life happened the way it did. I don't want that lack of control to stop us and stop you guys from being able to take control of what you do have control over. You know what I mean? There are always going to be things that we do that will have external forces upon it that we have no say over. All we have say over is what we do at the end of the day, right? And that's why it's so important for us to continue to have hope. Have hope in yourself, have hope in the future, have hope in a better day. Don't allow this residue of disappointment, this residue of fear, this residue of failure, this residue of heartbreak, this residue of sadness to get you to a place where you cannot remove yourself from it. That residue of the past, you need to wipe it off of your feet at the welcome mat of where you want to enter and give that place that you want to enter the full chance it deserves. And for this, the purpose of this episode and the purpose of what's coming, you need to take that residue of 2020 and wipe it off at the doormat of 2021. So on the 31st and starting today, start wiping it off at the doormat so that when you step into it, you will give it the full opportunity it deserves. And giving something the full opportunity it deserves doesn't mean that things will be guaranteed perfect. That's the reality of life. I'll never sit here and sell you guys fake dreams because that's not what I represent. And I'm just not here to lie to you guys. And if I did, you guys would call out my BS right away because we know that's not true, right? So things are not going to be guaranteed to be perfect. But what it does is that it ensures that you're not tainting the experience with your residue, right? You could walk into somewhere and it could already be dirty, but you didn't add more dirt because you wiped your feet at the door, right? And removing your residue keeps hope alive and gives you the push to not only try again, but to believe in the reality of better. Because sometimes we'll try again and we'll do what we have to do and we'll go through the motions because of obligation and all that necessary stuff of capitalist society, right? We need to make money, so we're going to go to work. We're going to do whatever it is we need to do. We're going to be a member of society to whatever level we believe is necessary and appropriate, right? But the belief in a reality of better is really where the switch happens and where the change is. And that's where hope happens. And that's what, when you don't walk into a situation with residue, you give it the chance to be better than whatever situation you are coming out of. It might not be at the end of the day, but at least you've given it a chance, because in the event that it is, you're going to be able to experience that. Because if you walk into a situation with residue and that situation could have been great, you'll never see that because you've already tainted it. And when that happens, you're never going to get the opportunity to fully experience the magnitude of everything that is available to you in life when you walk in with an open mind and the faith that good is your portion and that good is possible to happen to you. So what I want you guys to do for just a little moment is to think of the residue that is stuck to you from this past year. Take whatever time you need. If you need to pause this and just reflect on that, grab a piece of paper, write it down. And what I want you to do is to mentally remove that residue. Take the lessons from that residue and leave the dirt behind. Every experience we're in happens to serve a purpose. Our job is to figure out what that purpose is and then separate ourselves from everything that is no longer serving us, which is all of the residue and the negativity that will only hinder you when you move forward. Take the lessons. What did you learn from that heartbreak? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about people? What will you do better next time? This is what we need to take, and we need to leave the rest, right? And for you to be able to remove that residue, if you want a tactile exercise, what I'd say is take a piece of paper, write down that residue, write down that fear, that concern, whatever it is that wants to stick to you. And the next thing you need to do is erase it with an eraser, scribble it out, use some whiteout. If you need to, rip it up and throw it in the trash. If you need to, crumple it up. And if you really need to, take a lighter in a safe space, of course, in a safe space, outside preferably, and burn it. Like, take that negativity and pine sol it out of your life. I hope you guys all know what pine sol is. Pine sol is the best cleaning agent. It's what I use to clean everything, and it works really well. Any grime, you just pour a little pine sol on there, it's going to wipe off as if it was never there, right? So for those of you who can't just mentally remove something and you need to physically do it, write it down. Talk about it with somebody and say, this is something that's been stuck to me, and I've decided I don't want it to be stuck to me anymore. So I want to just talk to you about it and get rid of it. And then what you can do after that is replace the statement with a positive opposite. So whatever the residue is, whatever it has you believing, take that statement that you wrote down and find a positive opposite. So just a few examples that I have here, just to give you guys something to work on or work around, is one, my business will weather any storm. So what that is that I'm not denying the fact that the storms will happen. I'm just putting myself in a mental state to understand that no matter what happens, my business and everything I'm doing will be able to handle that. Not my business should be able to handle every storm. It will. We are talking about a positive and in the affirmative that it will happen, and it's already taking place. Another one is trustworthy love is on its way to me. You don't see it yet, but you believe it's coming to you. And believing that something is coming to you is the belief for a reality of better, and it's hope, right? So I don't see it yet, but I know it's on its way to me. So because it's on its way to me, I have that positive hope to continue to hold out because it'll get here in the right time, right? And a third one is that ending made room for better opportunities for me. So this is pretty much like my favorite saying, better still remains, right? Something did end. We're not in a place where we're like toxic positive to the point where we're not acknowledging the fact that something happened. But what we're saying is that it's made room for something greater, which is the belief of something better in the future. So that's just the one little task I want you guys to do to help you really remove your residue and get your mind right for this year. If you step into this year apprehensive, that's absolutely fine, but you have to keep going and you have to have that faith. And faith is a muscle, right? So this one episode may not be the change that's going to set everything apart. It's more so the catalyst that will help activate and start to build that muscle, because with working out and everything, you, even if you do 10,000 reps in a day, go look in the mirror tomorrow, you just won't be able to move your hand. You'll just be sore. It's about slowly building up the endurance and the muscle, right? So I want you guys to really work on removing and replacing with faith and positivity and what you do want instead. You may not see it yet. And that's the thing with faith, right? Faith is the hope for things not yet seen, right? So it's not going to be available. But if you believe that it's going to come to you and you believe that it's your portion, then you can move in that confidence until the thoughts manifest into your physical reality and the truth of what you believe it to be. So I really hope that that puts things in perspective for you. And I'll put the little task in the show notes for any of you guys who just want to take a look at it and maybe remember it so you can apply it. So you can just go to the show notes and take a screenshot. But with that, the words to live by for this week are leave it at the doorway. Just leave it at the doorway. I remember growing up, my mom used to always, when we'd come home from school and maybe we'd have an attitude or do something that was unbecoming of how she raised us or our Nigerian culture or how children should act to their parents, she would always tell us that all of that stuff you do at school and the way your friends are, when you get to this door, you better leave it at the door. She would always tell us that when you walk through this door, it's different. You're not doing that stuff anymore. And that's pretty much how I look at things and how I want you guys to look at things. Don't bring things in with you that you don't want around you. Don't bring that negative mindset in with you if you don't want it around you. So learn to leave things where they stand. If you've been through a situation and you don't want that to happen again, don't bring its residue with you into the new situation that you hope will be better, because you're already kind of tainting it, as we just discussed this whole episode. So all I want you guys to do for this week is just take a moment to really do that exercise. Write it. You'll be shocked what it is to write something down and rip it up. It might sound like juvenile or unrealistic, but there is something about activating all of our senses, something that's in your mind, putting it onto paper and physically removing it will start, you're activating different levels of your processing, and it can really have a huge difference and a positive difference in how you get over things. As you guys know, I'm a big proponent of journaling, and that's one of the reasons things get stuck in my head. And the best way for me to get rid of them is to take them out of my head and put them onto pieces of paper so I no longer have to think of them. So thank you guys so much for listening. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.